I took kind of a chancy thing this time, and I did a whole Hollywood theme, which people expect me to do, but I've never really done it. I've always sort of stayed away from it because they accuse me anyway. And this time I took all of the elements of Hollywood from when I was a kid, the pirate movies and the jungle movies and Western films and things like that that we don't have anymore. We don't see these anymore. It's a different kind of a industry that make films. And the things that I miss, you know, those real fantasy adventure thing, and bounced off of it. And I think I did some very wearable clothes, but I used it as inspiration.
Mackie's fascination for Hollywood is by no means recent. The 6-time Emmy Award-winning, 3-time Oscar-nominated designer spent 20 years in Tinseltown designing costumes for film and TV. His Hollywood dreams were the basis for a special small collection he recently did for Bloomingdale's. 9 creations, each inspired by a different star.
That was a lot of fun. I had to sort of gather up stills. I purposely got stills of these stars that I loved the photograph itself. And usually they were head and shoulders, so I couldn't tell really what they were wearing. And then I let the still inspire me. And I just, with what I know about them, and I know about all of them, I just drew what I would like them to wear, what I would like to see a woman wear today. If Marlena was making films today, what would look wonderful on her, things like that.
Mackie has been designing for recent Oscar winner Cher for years for both on and off-stage events. Take, for example, the get-up she donned for this year's Academy Awards.
And I don't think that this means that I am somebody, but I guess I'm on my way. Thank you.
Okay, and now for the big investigative question. Why wasn't Cher wearing that beaded motorcycle jacket on the Oscars that she told everybody she'd be wearing?
She wanted a see-through dress. She wanted something that was like antique embroidery and all that. And we talked about it, and I came up with this dress that was fairly shocking, you know. I mean, it turned a few heads. And I said, well, you're going to need some kind of a wrap. And she said, oh, I'd like to wear a motorcycle jacket. That's really me. I wear, you know, because she has like 20 motorcycle jackets of her own, in all different shapes and sizes and colors, and mostly black. So I said, fine, okay, I'll bead a motorcycle. We got the leather and beaded it and made it, and it's wonderful looking. It's just when she put it on, she said, oh, everybody expects me to look this way. And that was just about a week before the awards that happened. And she was on Barbara Walters, which had been taped way before that, so that's why that happened.
People were like so weirded out about this dress, and I feel it's quite appropriate for the evening.
How exciting is it for you to know that that particular outfit was, you know, so focused on just because everybody was wondering what's Cher going to wear?
That's all anybody wanted to know for a month. What is she going to wear? And that she came in one day, she said, all anybody wants to know is what I'm going to wear. That shows that people really are dying to have that kind of, that Hollywood glamour. Whether you approve of it or you don't, or you like it or you don't, at least there's something to talk about.
The pressure on you must be so tremendous when you know that you're designing something that so many people are going to be focused on, that's so important for the star herself to be wearing.
Yeah, always with Cher, I always get a lot of criticism because people always say, oh, it's so tacky, it's so this, it's that, she could see right through it. You know, but that's her. I'm not putting that out as fashion. I'm putting that out as an outfit for Cher to wear. It's like designing for a character in a play or in a film. And you have to think of it that way. You know, it isn't, I would never put that in my line in a million years. I never.
While his couture collection is evidently his greatest passion, artistically speaking, Mackie's 6-year-old ready-to-wear business is very much a going concern. For it, though, his fantasies must be tempered.
Fantasy is good if there's a reason for it. You know, just to do a fantasy for no reason doesn't make any sense. And as a costume designer all those years, I couldn't just put fantasies in where I felt like putting them in. It had to have a reason in the script, or if somebody was singing a particular song, or, you know, there always had to be a reason. There had to be a practical reason. I don't just do fantasies for the fun of it. Well, this is part of my swashbuckler group. This sort of, you know, brings to mind the period costumes that you'd see in those movies with the men, you know, fencing and carrying on for their fair damsels, you know, and actually the sleeve treatment really just kind of brings to mind maybe even some of the men's clothes of the time.
And we're seeing a lot of colors this season, it seems, or I don't know. I mean, you probably don't even follow
Well,
stuff
I don't
like that.
really follow color. I just love color at night. There's so many women that wear black dresses, and I certainly sell enough of them. But I love to see a woman walk into a room with a beautiful, vibrant color on. I think that's really nice, because after all, half the people there are in black tuxedos. So if you have a black dress on, you're just going to, you know, mix in with the men.
Some of the incredible things that you've designed, some of the wonderful creations that go for thousands and thousands of dollars, do you ever think that maybe women are just buying these things, wearing them once, and that's it? And if so, that must be pretty distressing.
When someone comes and says, oh, I'm going to wear this here and there and there, and then I'm going to put it away and I'm going to wear it next year, and I think that's wonderful, because, you know, if something looks great on you and is beautiful to start with, you're going to look just as beautiful in it the second and third and fourth and fifth time as you do the first time. I know there are women that wear it once and they put it in a vault or give it to a museum or sell it at one of those second-hand stores, you know. I know that happens, and I don't approve of it. I don't think it doesn't make any sense to me. I think if something's beautiful, don't you want to wear it again? Don't you want to enjoy it?
But many of the stars Mackie dresses, like Linda Gray and Bernadette Peters, probably wouldn't be caught dead wearing the same thing twice. And while it's a delight having various stars as customers, Mackie claims they don't all have their image down pat.
Some of them just have a thing in front of the camera. The camera loves them, and they get in front of it, and all of a sudden there's this excitement. But as real people, very often, they don't have this confidence in themselves. They don't have a natural style about how to dress and how to look and how to conduct themselves. It's very interesting. And sometimes as an actress, they could convey this style, but as themselves, they can't do it at all. And I know several of them that they can never get themselves together when they have to go to an event. But behind the camera, when the hairdresser's working on them and the costume designer, and they're playing a character, they're fabulous.
As the character, huh?
Yeah.
But they come to you for their personal social functions
sometimes,
as well,
yeah, sometimes. And it's very hard, because sometimes it's very disappointing when you see them out as themselves. They don't conduct themselves with the style that they do. I mean, I wish I could mention names, but I can't.
Yes, I understand totally. We don't ruin any illusions for us anyway. Definitely the kind of thing that you would imagine a movie star to wear, like in your little kid fantasy.
Well, you know, when you see a piece of fabric like this, which is from France and all, but you see a pink leopard, pink and purple and black leopard skin, it's just too good to pass up. I mean, it's so much fun. It's really tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah.
I always have to have a few of these sort of real Hollywood glamour dresses, you know, that kind that sort of defy whatever.
How does it feel?
It feels divine. Like liquid silver.
Oh. While Mackie's creations often maintain the highly theatrical spirit that's earned him the nickname of Mr. Hollywood, he is compelled to take other women into consideration, those who may not find themselves in the limelight, and that excites him.
Well, now it's like a challenge to, you know, anybody can design clothes, but you have to design clothes that will sell. And that's hard, because you have to think about the market, what's being worn now. I mean, you can design the most beautiful clothes, and if they decide that that isn't what's being worn this year, then nobody buys it. So you have to kind of have your eye on the market. You can't lose your identity. I don't know, it's very hard. You have to also know the lifestyle of the women the woman that comes to buy your clothes.
Girl, 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 you gonna set me on fire.
Coming up on fashion television, from Paris, the Pierre Balmain collection and the Windsor style. The late Duke and Duchess of Windsor epitomized the ultimate in chic. Their legendary lifestyle is the subject of British author Suzy Menkes' latest book, The Windsor Style. It's an intimate and detailed account of a world filled with dazzling dinner parties, elegant clothes, and fabulous jewels.
I have found it impossible to carry the heavy burden of responsibility and to discharge my duties as king as I would wish to do, without the help and support of the woman I love.
Wallis Simpson was the woman he loved. She was an American divorcee, and King Edward VIII gave up his throne to marry her. Their historic and controversial relationship was described as the romance of the century.
I believe that the Duke really loved her till the end. You know, that it really was a great love story on his side. On hers, she was a woman who made the best of what she'd got, and she certainly had a lot. He said that, you know, she was so obsessed with looking that she looked fat in this dress, that she put her hand like this to make sure that she looked slim. Can you imagine?
Suzy Menkes, whose previous work includes a book on the royal jewels, is a fashion editor for The Independent, a newspaper in London. Menkes also acted as a consultant to the recent television movie, The Woman He Loved, starring Jane Seymour and Anthony Andrews.
The only condition on which I could stay here now would be if I renounced you for all time. And that, of course, I cannot do.
There's always been such a great fascination for the Duke and Duchess of Windsor. It's one of the greatest love stories known to man. But for you, what was your great attraction to them initially?
You know, to me and to so many people who work in fashion, both the Duke and the Duchess are real totems of style. I mean, especially the Duke. Don't you think the way he mixed those checks and tweeds and stripes? I mean, he could be one of the Bay Street boys today, walking down the street in those clothes, and you'd say how fantastic he looks. She worked very hard at it. She went to the top French couturiers to get herself together. She was a plain woman, but that kind of impeccable chic, fascinating, I think, for anyone who works in fashion.
Obviously, both the Duke and Duchess of Windsor must have inspired each other to new fashion heights. But who do you think came into the relationship with a little more fashion sense, with better taste, perhaps?
Well, you know, I think there's a lot of difference between style and taste. The Duke had both a sense of style and great natural taste of how to put things together. You know, like Diana today, Princess Diana, has a real taste in the way she can mix things and do things. Now, Wallis was different. She had the style, but, you know, I have that great quote in the book when Diana Vreeland says that a touch of vulgarity is like a splash of paprika. You know, that this is what Wallis had, this ability to mix maybe the tartan carpet and to mix slightly crazy clothes or a barbaric necklace. That was her style.
The Duke was the idol of his generation and set a standard for English style with his Prince of Wales checks and Windsor knot. She was famous for her flamboyant jewelry, much of it designed by the Duke. After her death in 1986, the collection brought in $60 million US at a Sotheby's auction.
You know, they were more than gifts of love. They were jewels that were wonderful fashion pieces and also jewels that expressed a passion. Don't you feel those animal jewels, the panthers, jewels with a real sexual charge, jewels that speak the story?
The couple lived in France, and the Duke once quipped that the Duchess loved Paris because it was close to Dior. So many of the world's legendary designers custom-made creations for the Duchess. How do you think they felt about working for her?
You know, Wallis had a few great lines. She said you could never be too rich or too thin. And she said, all my friends know I would rather shop than eat. And, you know, her couturiers and the vendeurs at the salons, they loved her for that. So I'll tell you what she did. She would arrive at Dior, one of her favorite places. She'd have a little hamper, a picnic hamper, with her chef's sandwiches wrapped up in the beautiful embroidered table linen. And she would spread them out, you know, on the little gilded chairs, and she'd invite the staff to take this little picnic lunch with her.
Menkes had the opportunity to go behind the doors of their mansion.
the house itself was so fascinating for what it said about the Windsors, because, you know, the first time I went there, I was expecting this same kind of cocktail shaker chic, the 1930s ocean liner style that Wallace represents to me. And instead, I came into this cluttered mansion. Everywhere, I sat there to take tea, you know, and I'm sitting there slightly nervously with my porcelain teacup. And I'm looking round for somewhere to put it down. And every surface has a little Fabergé box, or it has a framed photograph, or it has a little jade ornament. There was not an empty space. Fascinating to think that such a plain and chic woman could have such a cluttered and fancy home.
How did it come about that you actually got to inspect their personal private possessions so closely?
I was accepted as a historical researcher. But I must tell you, there were moments in that book when I had a real kind of frisson of anguish. When I unfolded the Duchess's most intimate apparel, her lingerie, these slithers of peach satin and silk, and I found on every single one of them was embroidered a crown and WW, her kind of insignia. You know, I think that deep down that woman, only her maid and her husband ever saw her wearing these things. She must have wanted to be Queen of England.
Menkes also shows us how photographers retouched photographs to iron out the creases and wrinkles of the aging couple. She reveals the Duchess eventually had 3 facelifts.
You know, this was a life of the surface. I think it's a celebration. I hope people who read the Windsor style will feel that I'm celebrating their lifestyle and that it was fun. But underneath, there wasn't very much there. And in the end, we must say that it isn't enough, is it, just to fill the world with fashion and beautiful things. We all want a little bit more for ourselves behind.
You may not see Pierre Balmain's designs hitting the headlines as he would Chanel or Christian Lacroix, but the couture house is ranked among the most prestigious names in French fashion since 1945. Pierre Balmain died in 1982, replaced by his collaborator for close to 20 years, Eric Mortensen. While fashion houses sometimes fade away after the founder dies, Mortensen has distinguished himself. Many of his regular clientele include European royalty. It was his blue crepe dress Lady Spencer, Princess Di's mother, chose to wear to her daughter's wedding. In the past 5 years, Mortensen's twice been given the Golden Thimble Award by journalists for excellence in couture. For spring, Mortensen is emphasizing femininity with high waists and bare shoulders.
The huge, broad shoulders are fading out. The feminine look is very, very strongly back and in. Soft, round shoulders, a feminine look. The black leather with the machine gun in the belt is out. And I think that since the women have emancipated, they don't need any longer to dress in pinstripes and in caviar. Now they are strong enough and feel strong enough, the young generation, to be feminine.